Hey everyone, it's mekklord. Welcome to my video guide to KOZMO, the new archetype from Future something, the next main box that the name I forgot of. KOZMO is an archetype that gets to reference two popular media franchises, the first being The Wizard of Oz. You'll see there's going to be a scarecrow character, a scared lion character, a robot guy and stuff, and the second, of course, being Star Trek. As far as the TCG is concerned, it's also a deck that got a bunch of tops from mid 2015 to mid 2016 until a massive ban list destroyed it, along with every other remotely playable deck in the format, just in time for Blue Eyes to win the very curated Worlds 2016 World Championship. So, congratulations to them for that. The deck's game plan is pretty simple. You have your low-level psychic type pilots that get you card advantage and can banish themselves at quick effect speed to special a big ship from your hand, and the high-level machine ships that give you board presence and float upon destruction into the pilots from deck. Well, that's in theory. In practice, KOZMO pilots just get to tag into each other as long as you have enough of them in your hand, up until you end up on a big ship, and this can easily facilitate OTKs, so oops! Anyway, without further ado, let's take a look at all the KOZMO cards, starting with KOZMO R2D2. It's a pretty good starter, allowing you to search any KOZMO and dump two at the same time, and the best thing about it is it actually does it in the end phase, which allows it to play around skill restrictions like balance, my monster cards, which is pretty cool. It's absolutely impeccable cards. I heavily recommend playing 3 of it. Next up, KOZMO C3PO. He's okay. He gives you some recursion. He is one of the many one-offs you can play in order to facilitate the rest of your deck. You don't really need more than one of him, especially since tin cans searches your entire archetypes, and so do the big ships. So yeah, definitely recommended at 1. KOZMO Chewbacca is kinda bad. It has to return exactly 3 monsters, and it kinda conflicts with other better cards. This one's a no for me. Don't bother playing it. KOZMO Sexy Luke Skywalker is neat. It searches upon dealing damage, which allows it to immediately tag out into the card it searched, which, can help you OTK. 1 is enough, in my opinion, but 3 is definitely not a bad idea either. KOZMO Can Shoot for Shit allows you to get the guys that you dump with tin cans, so it's pretty neat too. You can also use it to revive any sort of psychic KOZMO monster, but you can access the big ships with it, so be wary of that. I think it's another decent one-off to be playing. KOZMO Sexy Obi-Wan is kind of a slow Book of Moon kind of monster, but it has high stats, it can float into a bigger ship, it gets the job done. It's another safe one-off. KOZMO Sexy Vader is the highest level pilot of the bunch. It's a soft once per turn monster negate, which is probably abusable. Then again, I don't think you really need to be playing more than 1. It has decent stats, but it's a high level. It definitely requires to be tagged into. Just play the 1, it's enough. And now for the ships. KOZMO, I think this one is a Lambda class Imperial Shuttle. My my Star Wars knowledge is showing. It still offers a permanent stat boost, and it foolishes for cost instead of effect, which is appreciated, but its stats aren't the greatest. I don't think it's an auto-include by any mean, but it's safe at 1 copy. KOZMO X-Wing is based. It's MST on summon. What more do you need from it? Run 2 or 3 depending on preference. I definitely love this one. KOZMO 8080 is also kinda neat. Protects your other KOZMOs, which allows itself to float. It has a beefy 2400 attack. It's a pretty nice 1 to 2 of, in my opinion. KOZMO TIE Fighter is... making tokens is neat, but definitely not necessary. We are not an extra deck board spam kinda deck with KOZMO, so this one's an even more dubious inclusion than Delta Shuttle, in my opinion. And last but not least, KOZMO Millennium Falcon is the first untargetable ship of the archetype, and the only one we're getting so far in Duel Links. Its 2800 attack is pretty impressive, its LP gain is cute, and while it doesn't have much else going for it, it's a pretty neat boss monster for the time being. Should definitely run 2 to 3 of it to make up for the lack of better boss monster for the archetype. On to the back row, which is 2 traps. KOZMO Force Choke is amazing, an absolute 3 of. Non-targeting banish and potentially getting a float out of your ships is just incredible. Don't leave the deck building screen without it. KOZMO Spoiler Alert is kinda bad though. Its graveyard effect is the best thing going for it, and even then it's just mediocre. Don't bother with it. Other neat little cards you can play in KOZMO include Power Stone, which you get to proc pretty easily on your opponent's turn, Storm Dragon's Return and Back to the Front, which both have a sort of recursion, and Dark Hole, which is a good card on its own and also triggers your ship when needed. Here's a tentative 20 cards deck list focusing on drawing Tin Can ASAP with Destiny Draw of the recommended skill, because you do get to manipulate your life point a lot. I did the math, well, I program did the math for me, and the chances to open Tin Can, which is crucial, or a way to get to Tin Can with duality, are not that bad, all things considered. Think of it kind of like Infernoids with Vanishment. You don't really play the deck without being able to open Tin Can. And here's a more wild, untamed 30 cards version focused on balance, which follows the same basic philosophy, but with a lot more tech cards. I didn't do the math on this, but I reckon the chances of opening Tin Can are decent. Pros and cons of the deck. First and foremost, it's going to be pretty consistent between Tin Can being easily accessible and also the ability to play N16 scales. I didn't show a My Monster Cards version of the deck, but that's also a thing you can definitely play, and being able to use balance is a huge plus. Second, it has access to a bunch of control elements, can sort of ramp unexpectedly, which makes it both great for grind games and also the ability to, just OTK and games on the spot. Third, and I didn't put it there because it's a personal opinion, but I think it's kind of fun to play. And the cons, well, the deck is really Tin Can reliant. Getting it disrupted with no KOZMO in hand to dodge a Book of Moon will ruin your day. Second, it does tend to burn through its resources sort of quickly, and is not all that competent at getting them back. We're missing a couple of very specific cards that would help with this. I'm thinking KOZMO Town. And third, speaking of missing cards, Forerunner is not that impressive as a boss monster, especially in a game where Noids and Galaxy, among others, easily bring out gigantic beaters that can just punch over it. All in all, I think the deck still has a lot of potential. Might not be the single greatest deck in the history of Duel Links, and it's missing a lot of key pieces, specifically better boss monsters and KOZMO Towns very specifically, but I still think it's going to be a decent investment and a great way to climb to COG with. But what do you think? That's it for the video. Thank you for watching. This is a picture of my parents' dog, not my cat for once. And in case you couldn't tell, this is the first video in which I actually bothered to write a script for this video. So that's why it sounds a little bit better than usual, I hope. So don't hesitate to let me know what you thought about this new style of, video. If you like the more messier kind of videos, if you enjoy the more structured ones like this one is, and I'll do the same for future videos. And also make sure to come back to this video in a month or so in order to comment about how absolutely wrong I was about this deck. Like that time I said Burning Abyss was going to be tier 3 or Infernoids would not be playing Void Feast. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.